last podcast where we discussed Marvel movies 1989 to 1998. This time, the big one before the MCU, which was 2008. So we're looking at 2000 to 2007 Marvel movies. This is an interesting period, not only for Marvel movies, but for genre in itself. DC still, was it 2005 was Batman Begins?
Yeah.
So 2005 Batman Begins, 2006 was Superman Returns, sorry, and then 2011 was Green Lantern. So you basically in the 2000 to 2007 period, you've only got 2 DC movies, and Marvel films just started to show how it's going to be done. Pre-MCU. So, of the 15 movies that they released, do you want to? First of all, to go. This is in order from 15 to 1 in terms of box office.
Okay.
This actually surprised me. Coming in at number 15, The Punisher. 14, Elektra. 13, Blade. 12, Blade 2. Really weird if you think about it, because Blade was the one that started Marvel up on the whole cinematic thing in the 90s.
Yeah.
11, Daredevil. 10, Ghost Rider. 9, Hulk, Yang Lee one. 8, X-Men. 7, Silver Surfer. Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer. 6, Fantastic Four. 5, X-Men 2. 4, X-Men 3, Last Stand. Number 3, which this is all obvious, Spider-Man 2. Number 2, Spider-Man. And surprisingly, the biggest earner in the 2000-2007 period was Spider-Man 3, which took in nearly 895 million. Can you believe that? Spider-Man.
Yeah. I remember that actually, because wasn't it at the time it's probably the most profitable superhero film, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Before The Dark Knight.
Yeah, because 894, it was closing in on $1 billion. I mean, Spider-Man took in 825, so there's not much between here. But 800 for a film as dodgy as Spider-Man 3, it's quite incredible. But it doesn't surprise me that the Spider-Man movies were the top 3 earner. But what a period!
Quite a developmental period, isn't it? It's where, like, I think it's probably where the successes start to come from, isn't it? Definitely. Starting after Blade with X-Men.
Yeah, 2000.
Yeah, because X-Men's kind of like I think it's like Marvel's Superman, isn't it, really? It's like their origin story that they probably have done better ones in the MCU, but at the time it's the best one they've done at all.
I always say that when people say about Avengers, bringing them all together,
yeah,
was like, they managed to bring all these superheroes with different powers together. But I mean, if you think about it, the X-Men is a mini Avengers movie, except that they had to tell the origin stories of each individual character, or at least know of the origins of the characters, and still keep the plot going. So for me, as a movie, the X-Men is as perfect as an origin story as you can get. I mean, it's no Superman, which is the definitive superhero origin story, but X-Men is a good precursor to Avengers Assemble, Avengers, depending on what territory you're in.
It's kind of like if you'd released Avengers first and the Avengers were already together, that's kind of like what X-Men was like. But it worked with that because we hadn't really seen a superhero team up movie yet. So I think starting with X-Men was quite a clever choice.
That's brilliant, and the first major Stan Lee cameo.
Yeah, was it X-Men? It's not in Blade, is he?
No, I didn't see him in Blade.
No.
So that starts the whole trend of him making appearances in many of the movies. And I like the way that in Guardians 2, the end, where you find out he's actually a Watcher. So it's why he crossed all the barriers, and like being a Spider-Man and Daredevil, and Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
So I thought that was, and they're going to be in last, having Chris Claremont in X3 which as well was I thought was brilliant as well. That's but it's a really, I mean, the quality. I mean, between this period, between 2000 and 2007, you got some great ones, and you got some that I've watched once and never want to watch again, like Elektra, which was a terrible movie. Elektra is a terrible movie. I saw it at the cinema, but I really didn't like it. I mean, it was terrible.
Yeah, I'm not a massive fan of Daredevil either. I think there's loads of fans of Daredevil, and I don't understand. I really don't. I always thought it was a weak one, but there's loads of people like cried out for that director's cut and think it's not as bad as everyone makes out. I really think it's quite bad as well.
I'm going to differ with you on this one. I like it. I thought it was. It's got the color palette, which is very. They were going for the whole darker Batman-y, which you seem to go for the bit too much neon for it.
Yeah, I think the series was the perfect sort of capture of Daredevil for me.
I always said with the likes of Elektra and Daredevil, and even the Punisher, is Marvel's when they said through the next Netflix brand of they're saying we're going to show you how to do it with these harder characters.
Yeah,
it wasn't under the MCU banner at that point.
No,
still able to say, well, we're going to give it the hard edge. We're going to show you how you use these properties. And that's why you got like the Elektra and Daredevil, you got Punisher in that started off in the Netflix Daredevil before he had 2 seasons of his own. And like you said with Daredevil, but Ben Affleck was all right in it. And Foggy Nelson, played by Jon Favreau.
Yeah, the father of the MCU.
Oh yes, who was also in Batman Forever as well as a bit part actor.
Yeah, it was like a blink and you miss it, wasn't it?
Yeah, I didn't even know it till about a year ago when I was reading the credits.
I must admit, you just brought it up there, but that's one of the films I really do want to talk about from this selection. That we really, really, really like is The Punisher, isn't it?
Oh yes.
And I don't know how. Well, I know it's probably because of the script, but I was going to say I don't know why Thomas Jones never done it again. But if he did come back, I'd be so fucking chuffed, and I think that was one of the first sort of ones to go for the R rating, wasn't it? Apart from Blade, there's no other way to do the Punisher. I wouldn't, I couldn't imagine him with his original sort of spandex outfit on and his white boots and gloves, and that's what was wrong with Warzone, wasn't it? It was too sort of comic book. Like, I know that's ironic, but I think when you treat him as a proper, I don't know, like a sort of a vigilante, he's always to me, he's like a Batman that kills.
Yeah.
And I like the best run in the comics was by Garth Ennis, by a country mile, having the freedom to do what you want with the Punisher, violence-wise and profanity-wise, and that's the sort of world he lives in. You almost can't imagine the other superheroes existing in that world because it's too bleak.
I do. I completely agree with you. And it was made on a $33 million budget, and it only raked $54 million at the box office. But it was never going to be.
No.
It was not. This is pre-MCU where they could literally throw a character no one's ever heard of out there and get an audience. Yeah. It was an 18 certificate, so
yeah.
Blade had. Being a vampire movie, so it had the horror audience already, and with it, Punisher really didn't have an audience. No. They kind of went under the radar. But for me, I do agree. I remember for years saying I'd love to do a take on the Punisher.
Yeah.
If I was directing or writing films, I'd like to do it. Then I watched Jonathan Henson's Punisher, and I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of complaints was that it was set in Florida. As rather than being in the nitty gritty, but it's where they had the money to shoot.
Yeah, I didn't bother me where it was set. It's the character, isn't it, that you associate with?
But I like the origin of the shirt.
Yeah,
from his son. And what I really loved about it was they spend all this time building up the car just to have it bang like that. I was like, wow, that's really ballsy.
Yeah,
and
it was just it was the first one where I sort of went, wow, that doesn't, like, you wouldn't even, it's like Blade, unless you knew who the Punisher was. He's a bit more famous. He's quite a bit more famous than Blade, actually, but I don't know whether it's because of, like, maybe modern times people know who he is more. than through the Netflix series or through the like the Punisher Max runs and that. I think he was quite wasn't he a Spider-Man character originally?
I think so. Don't quote me on that.
But I mean, like not many people would think of him in that form now, would they? With the blue, the blue-black spandex and the white boots. I only imagine him with the leather coat and the skull on the. I mean, it's the definitive version of the Punisher for me. I haven't seen the series, and I do like John Bernthal, but it's always been Tom Jane for me.
Up until John Bernthal, I completely agree with you. But I don't want to go off subject, but to me, Johnny Bernthal is the Punisher now.
He is good. He's very good.
Wise, it's Thomas Jane. It was just, and at the time I remember watching it being blown away. I went to cinema to see this because I love the character, and I was blown away by it. I was like, that's Punisher.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I don't think I wasn't old enough. I wasn't old enough by 2 years when it came out. So I remember when it came out on DVD, I just got it right away, and it was just I think I watched that so much. It was kind of like when you used to have a VHS and you used to watch it too much in the tape. I think I needed to buy a new disc because it just got scratched, like with me watching it so much. But it was probably the Marvel film I watched the most at the time, like over even Spider-Man and stuff like that. It was just, I had an obsession with the Punisher at the time.
He was good. Then they made Warzone, the film that Thomas Jane, actually said no, not doing it.
Yeah, that should have warned us, really, shouldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, when was Warzone released? Because it's not in our period we're discussing now.
2007, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, something like that. Because I remember seeing, like, when you go on IMDb and it's got like pre-production and the films being made, I was thinking, oh yes, another one. And then when they announced it wasn't Tom Jane, I immediately just thought, oh, I'm not interested then. Like I know you should always give someone a chance, but I just thought, well, I can't imagine anyone else playing him.
It was 2008, so that was going head to head
with Iron Man.
With Iron Man and Dark Knight. Oh,
no chance, really.
It was terrible. It
was awful.
It was a terrible.
I mean, it's a shame because we could have almost maybe had like a trilogy or something, with Tom Jane.
That would have been good.
And it's a shame, isn't it? Because you can't really think of a way, like Deadpool, you can't really think of a way of folding the Punisher into the MCU, can you? Because I mean, maybe you could. I don't know. It's hard because it's not an R-rated franchise, is it really? The MCU, so it'd be hard trying to fold, the swearing, killing, gun-toting Frank Castle into the world of, like, say, Spider-Man or something like that, or I don't know, even Iron Man. You can't imagine him in that same universe, can you?
We'll see how they do it with Mahershala Ali's Blade.
Yeah, I'm interested to see that, actually. I think I've worked out how they're going to introduce the vampires, but it's just theories at the moment, isn't it?
It's going to be good, though.
Yeah, it's going to be good, yeah. That's the one I'm looking forward to the most, actually.
Mahershala.
Yeah. I think Blade's going to be great.
I completely agree. I love Mahershala Ali ever since Cottonmouth in Luke Cage.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to skip over a year. I'm going to go to 2003 before I go back to 2002.
Okay.
Ang Lee's Hulk.
Do you know what? I've only ever seen it, I think maybe twice, but I remember not being very impressed with it at the time. I think it's quite boring, isn't it?
Yeah, dodgy CG for a start.
Oh god, yeah.
I didn't like
and the comic book thing doesn't work. The panels, I really don't like that.
I watched it once. I just didn't like it. It's not memorable. But the thing is, it made 245 million on a 137 million budget.
So that's not bad, is it? Really?
No, it's not. I mean, the fact that what's his name who played him?
Eric Bana.
Eric Bana, yeah. The fact that he's not that memorable in it, although he was good in Star Trek.
Yeah.
And Time Traveler's Wife.
And Troy.
Yeah, but it's just was not memorable. Even Edward Norton was more memorable than the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, and he wasn't that memorable either. So
he's not Mark Ruffalo.
He was still. I mean, funnily enough, spinning off from the Incredible Hulk just for a second, I didn't realize. You probably knew anyway because you're clued up on the Marvel stuff. For the She-Hulk series, they're bringing back Tim Roth. Did I read that correctly?
Yeah, the Abomination.
Yeah, I think that's a good. I like that. They do that now where they sort of say, yeah, it wasn't a great one, but it still exists.
Like Thor: Dark World and the Incredible. I mean, Thunderbolt Ross has been in it since Civil War.
Yeah, I mean I remember seeing when I saw that, I thought, oh, what? I thought that one was kind of like the dark horse, but it's good that Marvel. I like that Marvel do that because it's the sort of thing DC would recast, isn't it? Or say, oh, I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, look at Ant-Man, which is one of the ones that didn't do as well as some of the other Marvel movies. But look at Scott Lang, one of the key characters in Endgame.
Yeah.
Because they know that there are a few fans out there that actually like Ant-Man and Wasp, rather than saying, oh, it's the comedy one, we'll dismiss it.
Yeah, and using what was his name, Jimmy, the Chinese guy, the FBI agent in WandaVision.
Jimmy Woo.
Yeah, Jimmy Woo, that's it. Yeah, I really like that. Because I remember when I first saw him in it, I thought that guy's from. I can't remember which film that guy's from, and then when I found out it was from Ant-Man, I thought, oh, I like that. That's cool.
I was this moment. That's the thing. Why I don't get me. The thing is, it's brilliant because it's Jimmy Woo and Darcy.
Yeah,
and they're not exactly characters most people remember, but you've got the hardcore fans like myself. As soon as Darcy appeared on the screen, I was like, Darcy and Jimmy Woo, and you know who Monica Rambeau is right from the start. Before anyone is like, oh, it's her.
Yeah,
it's all grown up, and that's why the MCU works.
Because it's like a family, isn't it?
Yeah, a big extended family, which I always say is one of the great things about Endgame, is that everybody's rooting for a different character depending on who they really love.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I thought that's with Endgame, but that's for another podcast. All right. For this, because I've watched, I know the X-Men films like the back of my hand, because I some are good, some are total absolute
shite.
Yeah, Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix, Apocalypse. Oh, enough said about Dark Apocalypse. I really don't like that film. That's not one of the independent. We're not going to be doing it in defense of Apocalypse because I don't like to be negative about a film, but I just want to clear it by saying I don't like X-Men Apocalypse because they slagged off Last Stand and they did it in such a way which I thought was unnecessary. Yeah. Which we will go into Last Stand. I watched Spider-Man for the first time the other day because I thought that's one I need to be a bit clued up on.
Yeah.
And I judge a film if I've seen it before, how much I'm concentrating on other stuff. It was supposed Spider-Man was good for its time, but now it's got its good moments, like with the Macho Man Randy Savage and J.K. Simmons. Bruce Campbell. Oh God, Bruce Campbell's brilliant in anything, but I really wasn't. I'm not a fan of it now.
It's quite hokey, isn't it? Like a lot of the dialogue is awful. It sounds kind of Lucas dialogue, doesn't it? And some of the CG's dated as well.
Big time.
But it always holds a sort of nostalgic place for me because it was, along with X-Men, it's probably one of the first superhero films I saw in the cinema. Because 2002, wasn't it? So
that was, yep.
I was 11, so I just no. 13, I think I was, something like that. My maths is awful anyway, but I didn't. There wasn't that many. Like I couldn't see Blade because it was an 18, and Blade 2 was a 15, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I wasn't 15 at the time, so I think that was the first one. It's also, isn't it, where the 12A comes from as well?
I'm not sure on that, but it does strike me as being.
Or it was one of the first.
It's got 12A, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was where they sort of like, for those in America, like the 12A is basically, we used to have 12s over here, and then I think just so they could get more asses on seats, they basically said, yeah, you can come in if you're not 12, but you need to have an adult. Kind of like R, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you can be accompanied as long as you're with an adult, and I think that whole rating only exists in the cinemas, doesn't it? You don't get it on DVD or Blu-ray.
No, because they're expecting you. No, I'm looking around at the Blu-ray, see if I can see 12/8. No, it's all 12.
No, I think it's a solely cinema one, isn't it?
The amount of films that get 12 certificates, though, and 15.
Oh, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, they even got like The Dark Knight's even gets away with being a 12, doesn't it?
Jeez.
And Batman as a 12 for people that like us that grew up on Michael Keaton's Batman. That's
PG for me.
Yeah.
But one thing I did notice was Joe. But I wonder what happened to Flash Thompson. Joe Manganiello, Deathstroke.
Oh, right.
I was like, wow, he actually done well for himself.
Oh, I didn't know that was him.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So he's in Marvel and DC now.
Yeah, Joe Manganiello. He's married to someone big. Let's have a quick. God. Let me just click on this.
J.K. Simmons has been in both now as well, hasn't he?
Oh yeah, J.K. Simmons, bro. He's married to Sofia Vergara.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, J.K. Simmons. I got a bit. Perfect casting.
Yeah, 100%.
I always said this, that when he appears and it comes spoilers. I'm gonna say spoilers now because we are in spoiler territory. At the end of No Way Home, sorry, not No Way Home, Far From Home, when he turned up and they're like everyone goes, I was like, I was just sitting there going, you know what? I can't see anybody else playing him. So
no, that's exactly. I had a smirk on my face because I thought, like, it's cool, isn't it? But yeah, the other exactly the same. I just thought I couldn't think of anyone else that could do that, to be honest.
No, it was so cool though, but it wasn't like one of those.
Yeah,
it was like and that's the good thing about the MCU is it does make it very organic, so that it's not there for. I mean, I was one of the Marvel films I was watching, and it was pre-Civil War. I think it might be Ant-Man. The ending of Ant-Man, when you see the Winter Soldier,
yeah,
Falcon and Cap, and like that's like big. Wow, I didn't realize they were like far into production, or
yeah,
you could actually use that as a teaser. But J.K. Simmons in Far From Home was just spot, and then he makes that film. But I get the whole Sam Raimi vibe about Spider-Man, and it's sort of like when they could get away with making a little bit with a color palette that was like that.
Yeah, they're complete Sam Raimi films, aren't they? I mean, if you've seen Evil Dead or even like Army of Darkness, the humor's the same, and like the sort of camera zooms that he does, where it's hard to explain. It's kind of Edgar Wright-ish, isn't it? Where it sort of crash zooms on eyes of like people's eyes or things that are flying at people. It's just it's Sam Raimi if you know.
Yeah.
100%.
It's and Danny Elfman doing the score and Richard Batman, and
the score is pretty good actually.
Yeah, I like the soundtrack for one song, Hero, Chad Kroeger. Go Nickelback. I know it's not Nickelback, but it's Chad Kroeger from Nickelback, for anyone that doesn't know. And then everyone switches off and goes, oh God, one Nickelback reference. Which leads us to Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2 at the time was the perfect superhero film. I think it still holds up today, actually. I think it's fantastic.
Made for 200 million, generated 788.
See, I'm not there.
So it's the lowest performing of the Spider-Man movies, which is shocking.
And that's ironic because I've always thought of it as the best.
I'm gonna have to rewatch it. With Spider-Man, it's always been a case of I'm gonna see these in the cinema because I like the character.
Yeah,
and it took me up to I liked at the time Amazing Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man 2. Then when the Civil War came out, and of course Spider-Man films, it's Tom Holland, but
I was never keen on the Amazing Spider-Man ones. I always thought the original 3 were, well, 2 maybe, were were a lot better. I've always really liked Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. I think loads of people, sort of say, "Oh, he's whingy and whiny and that," but like it. I also can't imagine anyone else as Spider-Man until Tom Holland came along. Like he's always been my Spider-Man.
He was Toby. Not Toby Maguire. Andrew Garfield was like more too serious, emo-y.
Yeah.
We're trying to take away from the audience. At least with these Spider-Man movies, we're trying to set up the Sinister Six and the Incredible Ones.
Yeah.
Whereas Sam Raimi's one, they were able to get the characters right. I mean, Alfred Molina's allegedly back in No Way Home.
Yeah, I heard about that as well.
With Elektra, Jamie Foxx from Amazing Spider-Man 2. It's more of a darker one, Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
But the whole moment with the train and people see what he looks like and good. I'm gonna give it a rewatch.
Yeah, I like that moment actually. It's like the whole like New York standing up for him, isn't it? I really like that. I think it's still quite a post 9/11 film as well, isn't it? Like it hadn't long happened, so I think there's a lot of like, especially the first one as well. Like New York's this sort of this thing that needs to be protected beyond all, and you get that sort of vibe off the early to mid 2000 films, don't you?
Oh yeah. And Spider-Man's their hero.
Yeah. I mean, I think in the original, they had to cut scenes out, didn't they? Because they used the Twin Towers for one of his sort of
first one.
Yeah, was it the first one? Yeah.
And then there's in some of the trailers.
Yeah.
Alfred Molina, Dr. Octopus.
Alfred Molina's great, isn't he?
Before they started sticking too many villains in the movies.
Yeah.
And retconning the first one in the third.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that they just have Doc Ock in this one, don't they? And then they're setting up Harry to be like the next Goblin. So it wasn't like shoved in your face like it was in Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah. But then they misstep. They got the Marvel deal got rolling.
Yeah.
They began the MCU. Kind of funny. You got 2004. I mean, in 2000 you had one Marvel movie. 2002 you got two with Blade 2 and Spider-Man. And then 2003 you got Daredevil, X-Men 2, the Hulk. 2004 you got a bit of a mixed bag. You got The Punisher, great movie, underperformed. Spider-Man 2 performed. Then you got Blade Trinity.
Oh.
Dracula.
Yeah, it's not Dracula. It's just some muscle guy from Prison Break pretending to be Dracula.
Terrible movie.
That's awful, isn't it? Directed by David Goyer, who wrote The Dark Knight as well. I mean, you can't even... What happened there?
What's his name? Wesley Snipes was a bastard to work with, apparently.
Yeah, this is a famous story, isn't it, where he communicated using Post-its and wouldn't answer anyone unless they called him Blade.
Good acting. And you got a young Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah. Oh, Ryan Reynolds gives the best description of how it was like to work with Wesley Snipes, because I think someone asked him what it was like working with him, and he said, "Oh, I never worked with Wesley Snipes, but Blade was great."
That sounds a bit like the whole. I never watched Jaws 4, but I've seen that. I've never seen Jaws. I've never seen Jaws: Revenge, but I've seen The House That Bought Me.
Yeah, good old Michael Caine.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was the whole Dracula thing that killed that movie for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you can at least have like, because Dracula was in the Blade comics, but he looked like Dracula. The cape and the white shirt and he looked like Dracula. How you imagine Christopher Lee Dracula to look? That's the sort of Dracula you would like to see him fight. I mean, some muscle bound guy that he's just going to kick the shit out of. Who cares?
Yeah, and Triple H from wrestling, Paul.
Yeah.
No.
I think, but the interesting thing about Blade Trinity is, I think you sort of see the seeds of the Deadpool thing with Ryan Reynolds, don't you? Like the humor and because he is Deadpool, isn't he? He's inseparable from that role now. So I think like the seeds of that sort of funny R-rated comic stuff sort of it ironically starts in that for me, like with him, where you sort of see the seeds being sown. I quite like it. Going back now with hindsight, you sort of see that.
So we're not going to mention X-Men Origins Wolverine, which came.
Oh God, well we have to really, don't we?
We'll leave that for another podcast. It's not in our timeline. Thank God for that. That's one of the post Last Stand.
Oh yeah, that was later, wasn't it? Yeah.
God. Elektra, which I've only seen it once. I'm not going to comment. It's terrible.
Absolutely, it's probably one of the worst, isn't it? Actually,
I like to collect these movies, Marvel movies and comic book movies, but no, I'll wait for it to come out. Hopefully, they'll stick on as a bonus disc somewhere.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm gonna. This is really what I hate to admit to, but Fantastic Four. I really enjoyed it on first release.
I must admit, I still like it. I think it's still really, really enjoyable.
Chris Evans is good.
Yeah, I think everyone's quite good in that. Actually, that was quite a well cast, if you like. I remember going to see that as well, and everyone was slating it at the time, and I just thought, well, is everyone watching a different film to me? Because I had fun, you know.
I had fun.
That's what it's all about at the end of the day, isn't it?
Didn't have fun on the sequel, which we will go to, but I did. I enjoyed it and made me want to go see the sequel, which was apparently rubbish.
Yeah, well, Galactus is a cloud.
Yeah. Like a song, Galactus is a cloud. You can actually turn it into a song. But
it sounds like a really shitty band name as well, doesn't it?
I mean, even Doctor Doom.
Yeah. Oh, what's his name?
I should know. I will find out because
Julian McMahon, is it?
Yeah, he actually went in to be on Inhumans, not Inhumans, Runaways.
Oh, right, okay.
And it's good. Runaways is a good TV series. Cancelled.
I've not seen that. Is it?
I enjoyed it, but it's one of the lesser Marvel shows that went Disney, not Disney, went Disney Plus and everything. Anything that wasn't, they're just now tying in now with their specials. Good, like WandaVision and Loki and Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
One of the shows that got nixed is Fantastic Four is good, and Chris Evans is a revelation because he's funny.
He is, yeah. I mean, he's completely different from how he plays Captain America, isn't he? But it's nice to see that other side of him because he rarely sort of laughs when he plays Steve Rogers, does he? So
I remember when I watched it, I was like, when I found out about him playing Captain America, I thought, this is interesting. This is an interesting bit of casting.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see how this plays out. And then when you watch it, it was like, gee, that's the Human Torch. And there's a little nod to the original Human Torch in Captain America, where he's at the convention.
Yeah. And Namor the Submariner as well.
Yeah. And you've got Stanley as the postman.
Yeah.
And it is. I enjoyed it. Fantastic Four is good. We went on a bit of a Fantastic Four binge last year, and ended up buying all of them.
Oh, I like the first one. I really. When he plays the postman, it reminds me of is it Civil War where he's like, "Is there a Tony Stank?"
Oh, I'm gonna let you forget that. That's weird. That's got Don Cheadle in that scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. I think that Fantastic Four got tarnished by Rise of the Silver Surfer. For me, for a long while it did, but
yeah.
Even I even like the Thing, the costume for the Thing.
Yeah, it's very good actually. The CG is not too bad as well. Actually, it's not dated that badly.
It did in Rise of the Silver Surfer, which we'll get to.
Oh yeah.
Oh, well, we might as well just discuss it now. Rise of the Silver Surfer. That's a film that tarnished the first one.
Yeah.
I mean, it was Galactus as a cloud. The CG on the Silver Surfer.
Yeah, it's terrible, isn't it? I mean, it's nice having Lawrence Fishburne pre-Goliath days, but it's just it's not a good film at all.
No, it did, and bringing Doctor Doom back, and Galactus as a cloud. I've always thought that the whole head of the Celestial in Guardians of the Galaxy was a bit of an FU to that film, just to say, we're going to put a Celestial head
Yeah,
in to show
this
you
is
how
what they really look like. Yeah,
not a fucking planet-eating cloud. Which,
yeah.
when you see the things coming out of it, a bit like Unicron from the Transformers the movie.
Oh God, yeah. Where he's wasn't he just a big ball?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Ironically, how our Orson Welles probably looked at that time, wasn't it?
probably. But Galactus as a cloud, give me a break.
I mean, he's iconic looking, isn't he? Like he's got that hat and like he's probably one of quite powerful character, isn't he? He's not like one of the, but to have him just be a weather system is a bit stupid.
But what is it? Let me get the right Silver Surfer. The one thing that you get the scenes, like I said before, in clips where the cinema scene.
Yeah.
Scene that took me right out of the film at the start was when Mr. Fantastic's talking to General Hager and Andre Brauner from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Captain Holt, about, I bet you're one of these people that were sports and you picked on the people like us. The geeks will rule the world speech. I was like, oh God, that went on for a bit too long. We got it on the first time. He doesn't like taking orders from someone he would kick the ass of at school. So we get it. Why did that speech go on for a little bit longer? It's a good guilty pleasure film. When you got nothing else to watch, you can just chill out and watch it and laugh, not with it, but at it.
Oh, it's still miles better than Fan Stick.
Oh God, I was supposed to see that at the cinema, but the projector wasn't working, so we dodged that bullet. But when we eventually watched it, we got it for like £3 on Blu-ray, just so we could be completist.
Yeah,
but it's a terrible film. That
struggle to watch, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like we got this film, just put on Fantastic Four name. We'll just change the character name. It's what it feels like. And
we'll have a halfway point where it's so clearly reshoots that you won't be able to recover.
It makes the Joss Whedon cut of Justice League look good.
Yeah, that's saying something.
Okay, I want to, as we get a little bit, controversial now. I like X-Men Last Stand 2006.
I think we both established we do, didn't we, in our versus Dark Phoenix?
You know what? I like that. I've read the comic book, Dark Phoenix, and with all the problems that it was Brett Ratner, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That he had a shoot date. He had the characters. He had the script, and he had to make a film with Matthew Vaughn's, was it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
With stuff that he developed, and he came in at the last minute to play in this playground where he had actors for a certain amount of time, and he had to make a movie with so many, and okay, they retconned it with Days of Future Past, which was good. That they made the smart ass remarks, and with Apocalypse, then Dark Phoenix, we're going to do it right this time, and they did a film nowhere near as enjoyable as Last Stand.
No.
And for all its faults, the bit where with Jean Grey's arc was superb. I mean, only having James Marsden for a certain period of time, and you could see how long they had him for by the amount of screen time they've got.
Yeah, wasn't he popping off to be a traitor with a DC?
Even Bryan Singer, which is, and as a Superman fan, as a piece of work, X-Men Last Stand to me is superior to Superman Returns, and I like.
Oh yeah.
And I've had Superman in my life longer than the X-Men, and I like it as a movie.
I do, yeah. Do you know what I think is brilliant in it? The set pieces, the action set pieces are probably the best of all three films. Like they're the ones that are the biggest and most bombastic. I think like it is like watching it again recently. It is a really underrated film. Like it's not anywhere near as bad as Apocalypse or Dark Phoenix, and it's not even close. Actually, it's probably like again, it's enjoyable, and like you say, the Jean Grey arc's good. Some of the dialogue's a bit like when Vinnie Jones is on screen, he's the juggernaut bitch, ain't he? So
it's memorable.
he is memorable, yeah.
I ask, other than the bit in Apocalypse with this coming out of the cinema, you can't really quote
no
the other ones, but the bits about Magneto when he's talking about the death of
yeah, I was going to bring that up actually. Yeah.
Stuff like that. And I'm the juggernaut bitch. It's so quotable. And when Mystique gets gets shot with the vaccine.
Yeah,
and all the stuff like that. Its dialogue is you were so beautiful. But yeah, back to the death of Charles.
Yeah, I remember that being sort of a "did I just see that happen" moment. Because I mean, I think at the time, like I remember them saying, did they only want to do a trilogy originally anyway?
I think it was.
Yeah, so like you were kind of expecting someone to die. So when that happened, it was still shocking because like Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen had been these two powerhouse guys that you'd sort of accepted the X-Men with, and like that is Professor X and Magneto to me. I still think it is, and yeah, it was quite shocking. And like you say about the dialogue, there, like when it is good, it's great. The scene when it's Pyro, isn't it, is bad mouthing him, and he says something like he did more for mutants than any of us ever did, or something like that. Like he's still his friends deep down.
Yeah,
they just disagree, don't they, on the methods?
I was saying it works. X-Men and good comic book villains, like Magneto, work because it's the path they took because of what they see. Magneto is by definition the quote bad guy only because he sees the only way for mutant rights is by going down this path, and that's based upon his knowledge of humanity and society and how he sees it. He's not a bad guy.
No.
He knows there's a storm coming, and this is what the stand he's made. He says it. So what will you do? What will you do when in the first one
when they come through in the night?
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's why with Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, not a patch on another thing with the Rogue taking the cure.
Yeah,
at least it's something you can debate after the movie, whereas Phoenix and Apocalypse, you can debate how
shite they are.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Thanos, isn't it? Like he's such a great villain because it's a villain you almost sort of go, actually, I'm siding with this guy here. I need to stop doing this, because his argument, while it's still wrong to kill people and stuff and be violent, it grabs you because you don't feel they have any other choice because of the life they lived. I mean, what's Eric Lencher, isn't it? He's been through the worst event in history, technically, hasn't he? The Holocaust. How could he be shaped any other way?
Exactly.
And then this is it wasn't other mutants that did that to him, it was humans.
Yeah.
So I think that's why he sees them as this sort of, like why Thanos sees, there's too much inequality, half it all. Same thing.
Thanos goes after, he doesn't go after anyone.
No, he's balanced, isn't he?
Yeah. He doesn't matter if you're rich, you're poor, whatever society you are. Like you said, it's equality.
Yeah.
And his is based upon history and what you take in as a person. I always ask people, if in the world, basically, what would you be in? Most people go, oh, I'd side with the X-Men. But I'd be like, well, I'd be siding with Magneto.
Yeah, and he's got a cool outfit.
Yeah. That doesn't necessarily mean that violence isn't a way, but you shaped upon how you feel society would treat you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I read somewhere that they structured Charles Xavier and Magneto as the two different types of civil rights movements. Is that right? So Xavier's obviously supposed to be Martin Luther King, and that would follow that Magneto is probably more Malcolm X or Black Panther, sort of.
Malcolm X, yeah.
No meta reference there. Or yeah, like Malcolm X, yeah, I suppose, yeah. But it works, doesn't it? Because the whole mutant thing is probably, in Marvel, it's probably the best metaphor for the whole civil rights movement thing. I mean, I can't think they weren't deliberately doing that when it was written.
They're doing it to educate, and it's like when X-Men came out, and they all said about how, I mean, of all the films in this period, I'd say X-Men ones are the ones, especially the first one, really, in terms of, actually all three actually, is that it doesn't matter who you are in terms of race, gender, orientation. People that feel that they're on the outside can relate to some of the characters, so that makes it universal to the outcasts.
Yeah.
When I say outcasts, I don't mean that. I mean it in the sense that those that have faced persecution for being,
the ones on the fringe.
Yeah, not to conforming to how a certain section of society sees you. And when you look at it from that perspective, X-Men is groundbreaking.
Yeah, it still is. I mean, you can still watch the original trilogy, and it's still perfect to me.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't mentioned X-Men 2 very much, but I mean, I think for a while that's probably the best one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, because another villain I really do like, who is kind of a bit more evil, but still you can relate to some of his views, is Stryker.
Oh yes.
And Brian Cox plays him perfectly in that. I think he's so good in that. He's so better. He's way better than Danny Huston.
Huston was lumbered with a shit script.
Yeah, so it's not really his fault, is it? But I love William Stryker in X-Men 2. I think he's like a complete badass.
But he does it because he wanted his son cured because of what his son did to his wife. Yeah. So there's motivation behind all of the quote unquote villains.
I mean, in the comics, Stryker was an evangelical, wasn't he? He was like like there's televangelists you get in America. He was originally brought in as like one of those, and they sort of go after mutants and kill them like a vigilante group. But I think it works better with him being a sort of military guy, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know if they sort of rebooted him later and he was a military guy, but it feels more sort of, he's closer to the president, so he has more means to. I mean, the scene where he attacks the school is still quite sort of wow.
Especially with the way things have been going with shootings in schools. Yeah,
and like that's the thing again about X-Men is, like considering that he was an evangelical in the comics, it sort of brings that whole wanting to cure his son, the cure the gayness thing that they have. It's almost bringing that in, isn't it? Before that was even a massive thing. So yeah, X-Men's always been groundbreaking to me for that sort of stuff. It still is, I suppose, isn't it? That's what was missing from the later prequel ones, is they didn't have a message. They just had spectacle and bombast and stuff like that, didn't they? I mean, First Class was great because you had like the Cuban Missile Crisis and the 60s. The 60s is always cool, isn't it? And then obviously Mystique falls into that in those films, falls into that sort of the different one, not ashamed to show who she really is. And yeah, they sort of lost that, didn't they, with the later ones? I
like Days of Future Past. I think it's a fantastic movie.
I do, yeah. I think that's great.
And of course, I like the Wolverine as films, the Wolverine and Logan.
Underrated Wolverine. The Wolverine is actually.
I
haven't seen the road cut of Days of Future Past. I remember you saying it's not that much different, is it?
Not really.
Unless you knew.
Unless you know.
Yeah.
But they kind of did stop having a message after Last Stand, to be honest.
Yeah, because Last Stand was weird. It kind of had to me, it was kind of an anti-vaxxer thing.
Yeah.
With the whole mutant vaccine but no, I think they were a solid trilogy of films. It's probably still quite influential to how you start any superhero group film.
Would you have took the cure if you were a mutant?
Depends what my power was. I mean, if it was like setting fire to people by accident, then yeah, probably. But if it was invisible in the women's changing rooms, then no.
I'm going to just say mutant and proud.
Well, I mean, that's even sort of predating the whole Pride movement, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, so it still sort of keeps on giving the X-Men films, I think.
Methinks a Last Stand audio commentary is on the cards once we can actually do.
I think it'd be interesting, yeah.
Okay, we've got 2 more movies that we haven't covered of the 15.
Superman Returns.
No, that's the wrong universe.
Oh, so it is, yeah. How silly of me.
Superman Returns. Little segue. We have a podcast on that one.
We do.
So check it out. Superman Returns versus Man of Steel. Ghost Rider. I watched it for the first time since I saw it in the cinema.
Yeah, I think I've only ever seen it at the cinema.
Enjoyable bit of nonsense. Nicolas Cage.
It's like Fantastic Four enjoyable, isn't it? It's not. I don't think he was ever a massively popular character, was he? So
No.
they didn't really have that much to sort of lose if they did mess it up. And apparently, from what you've said, he's pretty good in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. anyway, is he?
Well, different rider, but yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
Robbie Reyes rather than whatever the character's name is in Ghost Rider.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you what Ghost Rider's real name is, even in the comics.
I enjoyed it, and having Peter Fonda was good.
Yeah.
Well,
And Sam Elliott.
Oh, Sam Elliott from Big Lebowski.
That's all I think of when I see him now.
It's kind of funny because you got Johnny Blaze.
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
And Peter Fonda is Mephistopheles. And yeah, Big Lebowski, who's Jeff Bridges, who's in Iron Man.
Yeah.
Nice bit of nonsense. We just watched it on a Saturday because my fiance had never seen it, so we watched it. There's worse ways to spend an evening than just watching that nonsense.
Oh yeah, it's enjoyable. Nick Cage is in it as well, so you're guaranteed a good time at least.
Oh yeah. We're going to end 2007. I'm going to put my notes down. With the movie, I remember sitting in the cinema watching this with a dodgy stomach, going out for 10 minutes, coming back and not missing anything. Spider-Man 3.
I remember that. I will remember that till the day I die. Have I missed anything?
No.
Not really.
Oh, terrible film. Again, jumping the shark's the wrong word. But it took me out of the film, never came back when he kissed Gwen Stacy. Kisses MJ.
It's too vindictive, isn't it?
Yeah. No one would be that dumb as fuck.
Isn't it even after he's taken the symbiont off as well? So
it's him being a dick.
Yeah, so like I mean I could have understood if it was. I kind of get the impression that it originally was, but it was recut because he's wearing a black shirt, isn't he? So I thought, you could get it if it's the symbiont because it's bringing out his aggressive tendencies, isn't it?
It turned him into a total and utter C word, which we shan't use on podcasts. But that took me out of the film. It was like it couldn't recover, and the whole changing the guy who did the killing of Uncle Ben to someone else.
Yeah.
And killed off Topher Grace's career.
Yeah. I ironically quite liked Sandman in it. I thought he was quite a good character. Doing it for his daughter thing. But it was silly making him the killer of Uncle Ben. But I think they sort of written themselves into a corner because there was no way for Peter to sort of be angry at anyone apart from that.
And the whole "I forgive you" thing at the end.
Yeah.
But you got J.J. Simmons, J. Jonah Jameson, Bryce Dallas Howard, Gwen Stacy. But it's unforgivable. It wouldn't be that stupid to kiss a girl you like the same way you kissed your girlfriend in front of your girlfriend.
Yeah.
It has to be really. You have to have a real high opinion of yourself that she's going to leave you.
Well, yeah, you'd have to either be so egotistical or so idiotic that you didn't even realize that it would hurt. In which case, both are just as bad.
Yeah. So MJ becomes a victim of Spider-Man because she tolerates that shit.
Yeah, and that's MJ's not like that at all, and
No.
you know she's quite strong, isn't she? Especially, I mean, I think the best MJ is the new MJ in the John Watts films.
Oh, she's brilliant.
I think that just the reveal of her was just great. You know, our friends call me MJ. No way.
Oh,
Like, because you keep thinking, like, who's this girl? She's quite funny, but who is she? Why does she keep popping up? And then it's just, again, it's why the MCU is great.
They know how to do it. But, no.
It's a shame as well, because I think Spider-Man 3 could probably be saved in an edit.
If it didn't have interference.
Yeah, I mean, like, cut the emo scene out and make the kiss part of the symbiont, and you know, and make Venom a bit sort of more intrinsic to the plot. I think it's quite salvageable, but as it is, it's not.
Too many villains.
Yeah, that old syndrome again.
And one that led to another. That led them to thinking, well, we're not going to go forward with Spider-Man 4. We'll just reboot it and we'll make it, try and get it onto the whole whole Batman audience.
Yeah,
a bit more grown up, which is taken away from the heart. But if they hadn't done that, they wouldn't have had to cut a deal with MCU, with Marvel Studios, and character sharing, and so. But Sam Raimi deserved better after what.
I mean, he's a great director, isn't he?
And if I'm right, Sam Raimi is now playing in the Marvel Studios toy box.
Oh, is he?
Oh, yes.
Which one is it?
If I am right, I'm just going on IMDb to make sure I've got the right one, which I'm pretty certain I'm right. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
I was literally just about to say the one film I'd love to see him do is that.
So that needs to ask the big question. Who's thingy going to play?
Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, who's Bruce Campbell going to play?
Well, there's a Doctor Strange villain called Nightmare, and he's kind of like he exists in like the human, like as long as humans dream, he exists, kind of thing, and he's like one of the most powerful beings in the comics. I think that'd be perfect for him, and Sam Raimi doing stuff like dreamlike visuals is good anyway. That's what he does. You know, the way he moves the camera, and I could totally see him doing that. Because is Scott Derrickson not doing it anymore then?
No, it's
all right.
Sam Raimi is on IMDb, is directing, and music by Danny Elfman.
Of course. Yeah, no, I think that'd be good.
Yeah.
Cool. But I haven't. I mean, I think the last Sam Raimi film was it Oz, the Great and Powerful?
Let's have a look.
The last one I saw was Drag Me to Hell.
Sam Raimi. I remember the good old days when you'd have to use a Hollywood film guide to do this rather than going on IMDb. Let's go.
When you actually used to have to find a book.
This is a books of things you'd find in the library. Oh, like I did make myself bought them because I thought, oh, they'll come in useful. When I was at uni. The amount of books I bought film books I bought when I was at uni, because I thought, oh, I'll use them in my career.
Yeah, I know. I bought loads of books at uni that I had to sell eventually.
He's directed Drag Me to Hell, Oz the Great and Powerful. He did a few TV shows and shorts. He's got the King Killer Chronicle, which is in pre-production, World War III, which is announced, and Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which is announced.
Well, that's made me even more pleased about Phase 4.
Yeah, so it's going to be good. So this is how we've ended it with a. You know what? I mean, there's no. You know, we all know what comes next. Dark Knight in 2008. We've got Dark Knight, Iron Man, the MCU, the Dark Knight trilogy, and everything that all the pulse starts from DC.
Yep.
But 2000 to 2007, really interesting period.
Yeah, exciting. I think.
Yeah, it was. Out of those 15 movies that released in that period, which one is your favourite?
Probably The Punisher. It's my personal sort of. I like the underdog ones, so I think and I love like 80s action movies. So I just think The Punisher was like that perfect encapsulation of that era for me. So like it's the Marvel film I remember the most. I don't know why, but it shouldn't be, but it just is for me.
X-Men, the first one.
Yeah, I would say X-Men second probably. I mean it was the first one I saw in cinema, but
yeah, I go with that one. It's to me because it's the one that brought it back and made me want to read comic books again after a few years of not reading comic books.
Yeah.
And so X-Men's got a soft spot. So yeah, it's been an interesting period, and a nice little add-on to the one we did, the last podcast we did.
Yeah.
So last words.
Just I think probably like pre-MCU is probably the best phase, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely for Marvel. It's one where DC was regrouping.
Yeah.
So yeah, this has been Marvel Movies 2000 to 2007. I'm Stevie W.
And Callum.